Hello everyone, in this tutorial I will teach you how to create this animation text on a website and I put it onto a banner, and of course the background image of these banners can also be changed. The fill colors of this text can be changed as well. The outline color of this text also can be changed. Let me paste the animation text once again for you. When the viewers just open the web page, the viewer can see the animation text once. And we will start this HTML and the CSS coding by the blank HTML files and no CSS. We will also use a little bit of JavaScript to create this animation text on the banner. But before we do this, we have to go to Illustrators or other graphic editor to create the SVG files of this text. We go to Illustrator and we create a text. We can use any word, just like Wonder Woman or Superwoman. Open Illustrators and click on Create New. Set the width and the height of the files. Also, you can change the name. I save the name as SVG Text. Set the width to 800 pixels and set the height to 230 pixels. Just depend on the width and height of your banner. And I click on Create. Now, I have got a one layers, layer 1. I double click on the layer name and I change the layer to backdrop. After this, I want to create a text in here. I click on the text tools on the left hand side. Beside I type the word, I set the color of the word to, let's say, red, and the outline of the word to no color, transparent. Then I set the height of the words as well. Let's say set to 60, and also change the font. I use a very bold font, just like this one. Now I click on the artboard and type in the word. I use the word Wonder Woman, or in this type, I use the word Beauty Woman. Click on the selection tools. If you want to locate the words in the middle of this artboard, you open the Align panel, set the Align to Artboard, and click on Align Center and Align Center horizontally and vertically. If the word is not large enough or too large, you can change the size by dragging this control point. Now also I put these words in the center of the artboard. After you have created the words, any words you like, you have to change these words into an outline. You have to press on Type, Create Outlines, and make these words into an outline. Now the word is changed into an outline. And how do you know that? When you click on the layer, expand the layer, you can see a group. And in this group, you can see each character has been changed into an outline. If you have time, you can change the name of this group and every word of this group as well. So I change this word to N or letter N. So after a while, I have changed all this outline into a corresponding name. You can see it here. You save the file before we change this file into an SVG format. Go to the files and then save. Save these files at any name you like. I call it text2 and click on Save. Click OK for the default setting. And now I click on Files again and press JS. Now I change this text tools into another format, SVG format. And also use this name text2 and click on Save. So I got a format of SVG profile of SVG 1.1, or you can change to SVG 1.0 as well. I use 1.1. because I think 1.1 is okay for my projects, and I click on OK. Now the AI file has been created and the SVG file has been created as well. I can close the AI application and go to the text editor to write the HTML and the CSS code. In my folder, I have created text2 AI and the text2 SVG file. I open a file called nothing.html with an editor called Notepad++. Just right click it and edit with Notepad++. If you haven't downloaded and installed the Notepad++, go online and search for Notepad++ and then install it. After you install it, you can see when you right click an HTML file or text file, you can select Edit with Notepad++. I click on Edit with Notepad++. The file is open. In this file, I have written some basic content in it, just like the head of the HTML, the metadata to UTF-8, and the metadata of viewport, content set to device width, and initial scale set to 1.0. The title set to animation text and the link to a CSS file in a CSS folder called nothing.css. If I open the nothing.css, there's nothing in this CSS file. Nothing.css file is put inside this folder, CSS subfolder. I open it, I can see the nothing.css actually is nothing. In this HTML file, I have a main body and I give it an ID of main body. And inside this main body, I have a large swapper container. I call it main container. And this is the end of the main container. Inside the main container, I have two containers. One container is for the banner, main banner, and the other is the main content. That means the contents of this website, you can put it inside this division. I call the JavaScript nothing.js. In the JS subfolder, I have a file called nothing.js. And of course, in this nothing.js, I have only two comment lines and a function called window.onload. That means when the document, the HTML has been loaded, the code in here will be run. Okay, I go back to the nothing.html and I begin to fill up the contents of the HTML file. And also, most of the time in this tutorial, I will go to nothing.css and create the CSS content for this HTML file. Now in this nothing.html, I push the SVG text into this container ID main banner container. How can I put the SVG code inside this? I open the file called text2.svg, right click it and edit with Notepad++. You can see a lot of SVG code in here. I just press Ctrl A and then Ctrl C to copy all the code in this text file. Go back to the nothing.html, put the cursor inside this division, Ctrl V to paste it. When I go up here, I can see a line called XML. This line could be deleted, and also the comment lines could be deleted as well. Group ID G. Also, I don't like this group, so I delete the group text. Go back down there. I can also delete this /G text. This is the first, and this is the second part, the letter E, and etc. Now, I save the HTML file. Go to the browser and refresh this page. You can see the SVG text already have been put inside my HTML. I want to set the fill color of this SVG text to nothing and also set the outline of this SVG text to red color. How can I do that? I go back to the HTML and looking for this tag SVG. Let me index this SVG text a little bit inside. I put it into other light. I indent the SVG text so I can see the SVG text much easier. If I want to take out the fill colors of this SVG text, in this SVG here, I put a property called fill equal to none. That's it. Now I go back to my browser and refresh. You can see nothing in here because the fill color is set to none. And also I put an ID for this SVG. I call it woman. And how about if I want to turn on the outlines of each text? You can see every text, the letter B or the letter E or any other letter. If I want the outline color to be red, I go to this tag here and I put in the code. Let's say I want the stroke color to be red and also the stroke width to be 5. Save it. Go back to the browser and refresh. You can see I have outlined letters for the letter B. Do it for other text as well. Just copy these two lines and search for the ending of each path. Paste in here. Save it. Go back to the browser and refresh. You can see every letter. You can make it an outline of red color and the stroke width to 5 or 10 or any number you like. So I do this for you. After you finish adding these two code into each letter, save the file and go to the browser and refresh. You can see every word has a beautiful outlines of red color and the pixel width to be 5. Now we go to the CSS files and make it more beautiful. Set a background color or background image to the banner as well. Now we begin to edit the CSS files, try to make the HTML page look nicer. I go to the nothing.css and under the lines character set UTF-8, I type in every text with this property. I set the margins of every text to 0, padding to every text to 0 as well, and then the box sizing to border box. Ctrl S to save the CSS file. Go back to the browser and refresh this page by F5. So nothing changes. Back to the CSS files and continue to edit the CSS. I set the ID main body property background color to pink. Do you like the pink color? I like the pink color very well. Ctrl S to save it and refresh the page. You can see the background of the HTML has changed to pink color. Go back to the CSS and also set the main container. The main container in the HTML is this one here. Overall swappers container to contain the main banner and the main content. So I set the properties of the main container position to relative and the width to 800 pixel for this sample and the height to 100% of the vertical height of the windows, and set the margin to 15 pixel at the top and the bottom and octo on the left and the right. Set the background color to, let's say, light blue, and also set the border color to offset and make it color to be F33. Save it and see what has been changed in the HTML file. Press F5. You can see that I have changed the width of the container to 800, and the left hand side and the right hand side will be automatically centered to the window. Go back to the CSS file and continue to set the CSS content. I set the main content position to relative width to 100% of the parents. That means the 100% of the main container. And then the background color to gray. And I set it height to a calculation equation. The calculation equation is the body height, that's 100 body height minus 232 pixel. Why 232 pixel? Because our banner will be set to 230 pixel. So I want the height of the main container to be less 232 pixel. I click Ctrl S to save it. Go back to the browser and refresh. You can see this banner is 230 pixel and the main container is the height of the windows minus 232 pixel. Go back to the CSS and continue to set the CSS of the others tag. In the HTML, I call this SVG ID to woman. So in the CSS, I call the ID woman of this following format. I leave it blank now, and after that I will set the animation to this woman tag. Go back to here. Under this SVG tags, the ID is woman, and inside is I have a path letter B, another path letter E, and etc. I can count the numbers of letters in my word. So if you count the letters in your words, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 path. So I go back to my CSS file. I set the third path. The ID is woman. Inside is a path, and the path number is the n child. The first child is 1. I copy this code and paste it underneath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I change the number from 1 to 11. Save the file. If you go back to the browser and refresh, there's nothing changed yet. I haven't put anything in this code here. Now I put the code into here. Do the first try, and I change the stroke of this path to dash array, and I set the dash array to, let's say, 20 pixels. Save it and go back to my browser and refresh. Now you can see the outlines of this text have been changed to a dash lines of 20, space 20, and 20, space 20 as well. If I want to narrow down the space and the dash lines, I can change the number here into 10. Save it and refresh it. You can see the dash lines now is 10 and the space with 10, etc. Now I go back to the CSS. Beside this stroke dash array, I can also set the stroke dash offset. Let's see, I set it to offset to 100 pixels. So what's mean by offset? Let's see, I set this one to 100 pixel as well. Save it and refresh it. You can see I have a 100 pixel and then offset 100 pixel and then continues the dash as well. So this two number is setting the dash line width and the dash line space. This number is setting when we begin the dash lines. Okay, you can change every letters with a dash line. So I copy and paste. So do all the following, copy and paste, and you can create a text like this with a dash line of 50. Okay, you can stop the videos and change every letters into a dash line with any number you like. So now I add these two codes into every child of this path. So every letter have the dash lines of 20 and the offsets of 20. When you go back to the browser and refresh, you can see every word have been changed into dash lines outline. So how can we do the animation for this dash lines? We have to go back to the JavaScript nothing.js and write some simple JavaScript to create this animation. So open this nothing.js, write the window.onload, call a function, and this function to check the length of every letters. So before I write the JavaScript code, I find out that there's something wrong with my HTML code. So we change to XML codes. In here, I use the stroke equal to 5 in the path. It shouldn't be stroke equal to 5. It should be stroke hyphen width equal to 5. Save it and refresh. You can see now the stroke is 5 pixel width. And also I go back to the CSS. I want to set the background image for this banner. The banner is main banner, right? So in here I have to go to the CSS. I also set the main banner property. Call it # main banner, bracket and close bracket. Inside this main banner, I set the width to 100% and the position to relative and the background image to URL, upper level image subfolder, and I have a file called file.jpg at this folder. And also set the background position to center, set the background size to 100%. So it's also fix the width of the banner. Save it and go back here and refresh. You can see I have put a background image into my banner and the text is on my background. So now I start the animation process. I go to the nothing.js, the JavaScript, and write some simple JavaScript in the onload function. In the onload function here, I set a constant to beauty woman. I call it beauty woman and equal to the document query selector, or I select all the path in this beauty woman. If I remember, this one should be Wonder Woman, the ID should be Wonder Woman. So in here, I call it Wonder Woman, should be woman, and all the path in it. And I look through all the path in that Wonder Woman ID. So I let I equal to 0 and I less than beauty woman.length and I ++. That means I look through every path of this Wonder Woman ID. I lock the console. This should be the letter. I count the letter I +1. Because I start from the letter 1, not the letter 0. Plus is. This one should be single quotation mark. And beauty woman with the range I get total length. That means I get the total length of each letter and I offset it with this length so I cannot see the letter outline. Let's see what I have done here. Ctrl S to save it. Go back to the browser and refresh. When you refresh, nothing changed here. I press Shift F5 to see the console. Click on the console. I get some error in the console. So I learn what error in my console. What's wrong with my console? This is called woman path query selector or this one letter plus I +1 plus is. I missed this one plus. This should be right now. Go back and refresh. I can see all the letter 1 to letter 11 and the length of this letter is 339, 314, etc. I copy this text into a text file. So I highlight it and Ctrl C to copy it. In here, I open a text file. I call it the temp text file. Okay, and then I paste it into here. I can see the length of its outlines of each letter is 339, 393, 314, and etc. So I copy this length into the CSS file. So Ctrl C, go to the CSS file, copy this length to here, and also to here as well. Let's see, if I put this 0 here, see what happened. The length of the dash is 339 and offset 0 pixel. So when I save it and refresh the browser, you can see I see all the path of this letter. Dash offset to 393 and refresh. You cannot see the letters because when the dash lines begin, we offset 339, so the letter is hidden. Also do the same thing with the other letters. You can stop the video and copy the letters from the temporary text file 314, Ctrl C, and go back here and paste it here. So the second letter is hidden as well. So after some times we have changed all this number into a corresponding number of these letters, and then if we refresh, you can see all the letters is hidden. So you have cleared all the letters here. Now I do the animation in the CSS file. Now in our CSS, we continue to write the animation for the text. In here, we put the assign and then the keyword keyframe. We call this animation like any. Open the bracket, close the bracket. We animate to some status. So we put a to keyword here, and we want the stroke offset is from a very large number, and then offset gradually change to 0. Go back to every word, the first path, and we call the animation by the name like any. Let's say it's 2 seconds for the animation, and yes and forward with 0 seconds. Ctrl S to save, back to our browser and refresh. You can see the letter B is animated. Now go back to our second path in the CSS, also called the animation like any. We use 3 seconds yes and forward 0.3 seconds for the second letter. Copy these lines, put to every letter if you want the animation continues. So this one should be 0.6 seconds. Because each word is 0.3 seconds, so the third word should be 0.6 seconds. Do the same thing to each letter. 0.9, 1.2. I think you can do the mathematics right. 1.5 and so on. Finally should be 3.0. Save the files and go back to our browser. Refresh the browser. Bingo, your text is animated with the dashed lines offset from a very large number and then schedule it back to offset 0. So now if you want the animation of the letters, not even the stroke lines and also the fill color as well. The fill colors is animated from transparent to the opacity of 100%. Okay, we can think another animation. We call it the assign keyframe. We call this fill any from some status to some status. From what? From the fill transparent to the fill of some color. Let's say I want it to be blue. I go back to this ID, the woman ID, and I call it animation is fill any. I want it to be 4 seconds is forward, 4.5 seconds. Save it and go back to your browser and refresh. Your text have animated the stock line first, and then the transparency background gradually change to a blue background. If you like, you can also change the outline to a right color. I think to a right color is better than the red color. So I go back to the HTML. In here, you can see the color is red, right? So you change this. So you change all this to right. So I use Ctrl F to search, and I use replace. I want the red to replace to right, and then replace the first one, the second, or the letter. Bingo. Save the HTML, go back and refresh. I hope you like these videos. If you like this tutorial, please submit to my channels, and I will give you more tutorials on the CSS, SVG, and other animation as well. Thank you, and see you. Bye bye. Muchas gracias. Hasta la vista.